Hello friends, welcome to my next video, and in this video I'll give you a quick demo on how a CrewAI agent will interact with a MCP server. So it will be an hands-on. I'll create it from scratch. So just to give you an idea, how can we create a CrewAI agent that talks to an MCP server, that use the tools of the MCP server. So here's the use case that you see on the screen. So you see the diagram on the left hand side and the description on the right hand side. So we'll create a email agent in CrewAI. So in this email agent, there'll be a small lab report message that will be utilized to create a formal email, to draft a formal email by this agent. And we'll have MCP server, which will have two tools. One tool is to insert an email signature at the bottom of the email. Another tool is to calculate the BMI. In case if in the message there is weight and height mentioned, it will calculate the BMI. So that's it. So let's get down to coding. So first we'll create an MCP server. We'll run the MCP server and then we'll create a CrewAI agent and we'll connect it to the MCP server. Or in fact, we will be providing the MCP server tools to the CrewAI agent. So let's start. Okay, so we open a Visual Studio Code editor. You can use the editor of your choice. And for this demo, I'll use the UV package manager, but feel free to use any other tool of your choice. Well, first we'll create an MCP tool. So I open the terminal and I will say UV init. It will initialize the UV and generate all these artifacts. And you can see PyProject.2ml. Okay, so next let me create a virtual environment. So UVVNV, UVVNV. Okay, so you see a virtual environment is being created. So we have to activate that. So let's just copy this and let's just paste it over here. And there we go. So we have an MCP email agent tool virtual environment created. Okay, so the dependency that we require over here to create MCP. So let's add that. So I will say UV add. So let me add fast MCP, should be enough, but let me also add MCP as well. So since UV it is based on Rust, so it is very fast. So here we are. So all these dependencies are installed, and you can see it over here also. The dependency, it gets updated. Okay, so now we open the main.py, and here is where we'll write our code for the MCP server. So we will use a HTTP streamable over here. So let's start creating one. Okay, so what I will do here is, let me delete all, make it blank, and or rather let me do one thing, let me keep it as it is. Let me code on top of it. So I'll first import the dependency, which is nothing but first MCP. So I'll say from fast MCP, import fast MCP. Okay, and then next let me create an MCP instance. So let me name this variable as MCP, and then I say fast MCP, and let me give it some heading over here. So I'll say demo MCP server. That's it. And then let me quickly create a tool. So at the rate MCP dot tool, and here I'll create a tool. So I can do to the diagram. um, Acronym diagram, we had two tools, right? One was email signature, another was calculate BMI. So let me first create an email signature. So email signature. So let's check the diagram. So email signature, yeah. So we are on the right track. So email signature, and this will email signature, and here we will just have sender and phone number. Okay, so sender name as a string, and then we will have phone number as a string, and return type will be a formatted signature, it will be a string. So let me create the document doc string. In doc string, let us say generate a professional email signature, yeah, whatever it is suggesting, we'll go with that. Okay, and then we also have to mention what are the argument, though this is optional, but it's always a good idea to mention it. And so sender, which is a string, is the name of the sender, and phone number, let's keep it as a string. You can keep it in the phone number format also, but I want to keep it very simple, so let it be a string, phone number of the sender. So that's it. And then I'll have to write what it will return. So let's say signature, it says best regards, phone number. Okay, so whatever it is suggesting me, I can go with that, or if you want to format it in a different way, so that also you can do. Okay, so let me do one thing, says best regard. Okay, and let me format it this way, it will be more convenient in fact. And slash n we don't need to put. So phone number, okay, sender name, phone number, and then I can just mention it as, say, some kind of fictitious company. Say I will say ABCD Corporation, or give it any name, any company name. This is just fictitious, and I can mention, other than that, what else I can mention? Say give it some kind of address. Say I give it the address Park Street, and I'll say Kolkata. This is the city where I belong to, and India. Say for example. And let me format it a little better. Yeah, and it will return this signature. That's it. And let's create another tool. That tool was calculate BMI. So at the rate MCP dot tool, and I'll say calculate BMI. Okay, so weight and height both will float. Return type will be float. Okay, and then I go with whatever is suggested in the doc string, that is calculate body mass index, and arguments are weight, which is a float, and height is a float. So weight in kilograms, height in meters. Okay, and BMI is weight upon height square, and it will return the BMI rounded to 2 digits. So our tool is ready. So now we have to add more code. I have to run this MCP server. So what I'll do is, so within this main function I'll run it. So within this main function, I'll say, sorry, MCP dot run, MCP dot run, and then we have to give the transport type. So transport, okay, we'll say streamable HTTP, and host we can take as, say if we put it as 0.0.0.0, so it will run on localhost. We run it locally, and what we give as 8080 or any number you can give. Say I give 8081. So that's it. So this is it. So now let's start this MCP server. So to run this MCP server, you just have to say uv run main dot enter. So this should spin up the MCP server. Yeah, there we go. So our MCP server is up and running, and we can test it also. We can quickly test it. So what we can do is we'll just open up the browser, http/localhost, and the port number, if you remember, it was 8081, and just put /mcp. So even if the error message comes, no problem. Okay, so this is the error message that will come, because it says that client must accept text or event string, but we are directly running in the browser, so no worries. This means our MCP is working fine. Our MCP server is running fine. That's it. Now, before you create an agent, a CrewAI agent, you have to create an API key, depending on which LLM you want to use. So here I would like to use Gemini. So if you also plan to use Gemini, you can go to Google Cloud Console, and from there you can create your credentials. Okay. So here you can create your API key, but since I've already created it, so I'll not be creating it. So this is first step. And after creating this key, just copy this key, and I will open my VS Code again. So one of the instances is already running, as you saw, which is the MCP tool instance. So I'll create a separate VS Code, separate instance of VS Code, and here I'll follow the same process. I'm using a UV package manager, so I'll say UV init, then I'll say UV virtual environment, that is VNV, and then I will activate this environment. Exactly the same thing that I did for MCP. So till here it is the same process, and once I have activated the virtual environment, then manually I can create a .env file, env, and here you have to mention this variable API key, and you have to put your Gemini API keys over here. So I'll just paste my key over here. Okay, so I'll not be recording this because the key is very confidential, so you can generate your own key and just make sure you paste your keys over here. Okay, so after I've pasted my secret key in Gemini API key variable, I'll go to main, and here is where I'll write the code for my CrewAI agent. So before that, we have to install the dependencies. So what are the dependencies we need for to run CrewAI? So first dependencies uv add, we will have to use the CrewAI tools, and then after this we also have to add the Google Gen AI tool as well, otherwise we won't be able to connect with the LLM. And Then we can go on adding whatever tools we require depending on your requirement. So next I will add CrewAI Google Gemini. This tool you need to add. And let's also, or let it be as we require. If any error comes up due to any kind of missing dependency, then we'll add it at that point of time. I think we are good to start with CrewAI. So these two dependencies should be good enough, but if required, we can add more dependencies. So now let's start the code. So we will import the dependencies. So here we have to use, since we are using environment variable, so we need to have dot, so from dot env, load dot env, then from CrewAI we need to import LLM, sorry, there is a typo, sorry for that. Yeah, and then we will have agent. We have to import agent, task, and crew. As you know, in CrewAI we have agents, we have task for the agent, and finally we have the crew, and then we can start the crew by issuing the command crew.kickoff. Okay, so let's import that as well. CrewAI import agent, then we also import, as I mentioned, task we need to import, and we also need to import crew, which will bind it all together. Okay, then we have to load the environment by issuing this, by writing this method load.env. Okay, and then we also need to import MCP server adapter to connect to the MCP tool. Yeah, sorry, I should have imported it. Let me keep it here only on the top. So from CrewAI import MCP server from CrewAI. Sorry, that's a part of CrewAI tools. CrewAI tools. Import MCP server adapter. Yeah. So this will help us to. This will be an adapter that will connect us to the running MCP server. Okay. So I think we have imported all the required dependencies. Then we are loading the environment variable. As you remember in this env file, we have an environment variable Gemini API key. Okay. So now just to test it, what we can do is before we write the entire code, what we can do is we can just test it. Test the LLM calls, whether the LLM call is happening or not. Okay. So we will create an instance of the LLM and we'll try to run it. Okay, so LLM equals LLM, and here the model that we will use, uh, let's say model equals, so whatever model, if you are using GPT or here we are using Gemini. Okay, so we'll write Gemini. Okay, Google slash let me remember the name, let me check the name, what model exactly I have taken. So I have taken Gemini 2.0 Flash. I can use that. So Gemini 2.0, I have this model, and I can use other models as well. But let me try using this model. I'm sorry, this will not be Google. This should be Gemini. Yeah. And temperature, I can say temperature, or you can leave it the default also. So temperature, I mention it as 1. Yeah, that's it. So once this LLM is defined, so I can just make a call to the LLM. Say, let me try to make a call here. I'll say response equals LLM dot call. I will just say, you can put any prompt over here. Say, if I say, what is the sum of first, say, nat- natural number, as it is suggesting, I can go with that also, or anything. First 10, say, even numbers, if I say, whatever. We just want to test the call. That's it. And let's try to run this to check. We run main.py. Oh, sorry. I have not taken a print out. I have not given a print command. Yeah. So let me run it again. Yeah. So there we go. We get the answer from the LLM. Okay. So that means it is working fine. The LLM call is working fine. And remember, I'm using the free API key. So there is a rate limit. So you have to take care of that. But if you are using a paid one, it will be much better in performance, and the rate limit also will be very high. Okay, so now we clear this and let's write the rest of the code. So I'll comment this out. This response is not required. This was just to test, and I'll start my code. Start my coding in fact. Okay, so I'll define a server parameter. Okay, so server meters is equal to, say, I have to provide URL and transport, what type of transport it is. So this URL will be the MCP URL. So URL equals, so you remember the MCP URL? It is 8081, right? If you remember, and slash MCP. So this is how a MCP URL is written. Though you can customize it also if you want, but in this case we are using this URL. Okay, and then we have to give the transport type. So say transport, I want, what was the transport? It was a streamable HTTP. Okay, so transport, so I will say streamable HTTP. So this is the minimum server parameter I can take. There are lots of other parameters as well, but just to keep it simple, we'll take only these two. Okay, so after this, then we have to define the server adapter. So let's call it MCP server adapter. Okay, so we'll be using this MCP server adapter and we'll pass the server parameters. Okay, so it will create an adapter. uh, Next we will have we list down the tools and let's check, and also we print those available tools just to check whether it is fetching the tools or not um, from the MCP. Is it making the connection with the MCP or not? Let us remove all this not needed as of now. So let's run it and check it. I'll say uv run main.py. Okay, it says that you are missing the MCP package. So even if you say yes, it may give an error. No worries. What you'll do is we add CrewAI tools MCP. Now this should work. So this was one of the dependencies we have missed. So let's run uv run main.py. Let's check. So there we go. So it is able to connect to the MCP server, which is already running. So I have one more instance of MCP server. So you see this is status also it is showing as okay, means the request had come to this MCP server. So it is able to make the connection and list down the tools. Okay, now the next step. To save time, I'll just copy paste rather than typing everything and I'll explain it to you. So here I'm creating an agent. Okay, the CrewAI agent. I name it as lab assistant. So every agent, as you know, in CrewAI has got role. Then what will be its role? So I give it the role of email assistant agent. Goal is to improve emails and make them sound professional, clear, and email signature at the end of the email. And backstory, like we are setting a kind of a persona, like what or giving it a skill. Say a highly experienced communication expert, skilled in professional email writing, and tools will provide the MCP tools which we have listed over here. Then it will be able to connect. And if you want the verbose, like all the traces to show, okay, and the verbose to show, you can make it true. And we are providing it the LLM as well, what LLM we are using. Okay, so it is stored in the LLM variable. So this is for the agent. Then we this is just a message lab report, the input to this agent. So it is a lab report written very casually, like say some Dr. Smith has written it, just an imaginary doctor, we can say, an imaginary phone number we are providing. So hi team, I'm Dr. Smith and my phone number is say 1234567 blah blah, and I just wanted to update you on the lab test of the patient, say imaginary patient Kathy. Her blood work came back normal. I'll say her blood test, I think. Let's correct it. Test came normal, but her cholesterol levels are a bit high. She is 45 years old. Her weight is 75.1 kg and height is 1.7 meter. So this will serve as an input to this agent. And email draft task. So we are creating one task. We name it as email draft task. In the description, we are saying that take the following lab report and write into a professional and polished version. Add email signature at the end, and if weight and height are provided, calculate BMI and mention in the email. So if anyone is mentioning the weight and the height, then only that calculate BMI tool will be activated by the agent. Okay, and here we are giving the lab report, whatever is the input. And agent we are mentioning as the lab assistant agent, which is this agent. And expected output we can mention, like how we want to format the output, how the output will be. So professional written email with proper formatting and content. And finally, we create a crew which will bind it all together, that what is the agent or list of agents also, if there are multiple agents, multi-agents conversing with each other. And if there are multiple tasks, so here there is only one task. So we mentioned that email draft task. And again, verbose, if you want to keep it true, you can. Okay. And next we can say result equals crew.kickoff. So our agent will start, will trigger the agent, the crew agent, and then print the result. But let me tell you one thing, if you try to connect your crew agent to the MCP tool, there's a high chance you'll run into an error, an AsyncIO error, sync error. So there are lots of workaround for that. So first let's check what it is. So most of the time it may have that issue. Okay, only if the tool is very simple, program is very simple, then you may not have that error. But there's a high probability you'll face that issue. So let me run it. So I say uv main.py, oh sorry, uv run. Let me clear this. uv run starts our agent. The agent started. Okay, so the tool, it has given us the output. Okay, so there is no issue. And if you want to see the execution trace, you can just say yes. In case if you want to see the execution trace, so it will take you to that link. It will show you the execution trace also, like LLM call took 1.9 seconds and calculate BMI call and all these things. Okay, so this is how we can connect a Crew AI agent to an MCP. So if you see, it has called the tool, the calculate BMI tool, and it is also calling the email signature tool. So based on that, it has calculated the BMI. It has also determined what will be the email signature, and in the final answer, you can see it has formatted the email. As I mentioned, there can be an issue of AsyncIO at times. This time it has run fine, but at times you'll see that it runs into that issue. So I'll give you a hint how you can tackle that issue in case if you face that error. So let me quickly show you that. So what you can do in case if you are facing issue, this time for me it runs fine, but if you are trying this out and if you are facing the issue, then you can start the MCP adapter and stop the MCP adapter. You can start the MCP adapter, then you can run the CrewAI, and after you are done, then you can stop the MCP adapter. That will not run into the issue. So in case you are running to the issue, then you should define one function. So I'll paste that function over here. Okay. Say start MCP server, where you are saying MCP server adapter dot start, and also one stop MCP adapter. And in the end, what you can do in the end, this you can put a try and let's indent it, and then you can say finally, yeah, and you can say stop MCP adapter, and before try you can just start MCP adapter. That's it, and we are done. So if you're facing that error, you can resolve that error this way. So I'll clear the screen and let me run it again. Yeah. So there you go. So it is, you can see it is calling the tools, the MCP tools, and finally it has completed the task and formatted you the email. So you'll not face that error of async, going out of sync. Most of the time we face this error when we are using CrewAI. So that's it. So I hope you like this video, and you can let me know if you want me to create any more videos. Thank you very much.